Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about Trump and the LGBTQ. What I'm going to give to you is a set of ingredients which, if thrown into the mix, they give you the perfect recipe to understand why Trump positions himself on the LGBTQ a certain way. First is theology. Usually conservatives have a tendency to think that the Bible's stand on the LGBTQ phenomenon is black and white. It is not so simple, as you will understand from listening to what I'm about to say. Now, as we approach this, we need to understand the inspiration of Scripture. It isn't always that the men of God who got the revelations from God always got it through a dream, and it was something that men had not known before. There were other instances of revelation where God endorsed what men already knew from their prior experience. So, dreams and revelations and prophecies were given to the prophets in their minds, and people had not known it before. But in the case of something like the Mosaic body of laws which prohibit certain sexual relations, mankind had already lived a long time before the law was given, and they were sexual beings by nature, and they had experienced it and come to their own conclusions. Societies had existed that had tried to regulate sexual behavior. So it is discernible that what God gave to Moses was more typically a seal upon what already humankind had come to know was good sexual conduct from bad. So when we understand that when Moses was given this body of laws to enforce upon the people of Israel, it wasn't so easy. As we read the scriptures, we come to realize that it was a difficult thing for him to enforce it. After Moses, there were many kings, some of them of a precious few. They tried to enforce it to varying degrees and often without much success. Here are some of the reasons. These laws on sexual conduct didn't always refer to the queer sexualities. Those were an outlier. The bulk of them were given in straight relations. For example, do not fornicate. Let your children, prior to their marriage, not give themselves over to sexual intercourse so that they will become fornicators. Do not commit adultery. Within the context of marriage, don't be immoral. Do not commit incest. Do not take a rival wife. Do not rape. So all these were relations between of people who were sexually straight, men and women. And as you can see, it becomes very difficult to have to enforce some of these laws. And therefore, people came to have to tiptoe around some of these things and coexist with the thorny issue of not exactly enforcing the law of God as it was given. So when these things were let go, some of these outliers also crept in. And this doubt and debate persists even till date. For example, Jesus said, he who is divorced and remarries commits adultery. Whereas the Judeo-Christian law that was followed in many of the countries in the modern Christian era, it does not appear that divorce was banned by law. So always there has been this doubt about enforcing the law of God. That is one aspect of theology. Now add to this mysterious figure of Jesus. Now I'm moving on to the next ingredient. Now Jesus is this mysterious figure. He had a very lofty moral conduct, and his teaching was just as high, because he went a step further and said, even if you look at a girl with a wrong eye, then it's as good as committing the act. He insisted on the spirit of obeying the law. Now, such a person, Jesus, you would expect him to instantly condemn a woman caught in the act of adultery. So this was a woman who was caught in the act. There wasn't a doubt about the accusation. But when the woman was brought to him, he asked the first person who was going to throw the stone on her to be a man who was himself without not at fault, and there was no such person. So Jesus handled it very wisely and very intelligently, that he both upheld his standard but at the same time defended the offender. And in this instance, there are the mysterious seeds of a few things, such as decriminalizing sexual misconduct, of the seeds of feminism, as it were, and being patient and giving a listening ear to the offender. So the words of Jesus again add to the complication and the complicated understanding of sexuality as a whole. Now add to this mix the next ingredient, which is modern knowledge. In this lifetime, we can easily catch videos of elderly people saying that when they were young, there was no such thing as a homosexual. There was no gay identity. There was just homosexual behavior, but not an identity. But within the last few decades, mankind's knowledge on the subject has so vastly increased, because in this span of time, people have dedicated their time to study this phenomenon, document them, investigate them, study them in controlled groups, and find out patterns that are similar for people going through this. So we've come to a time where credible testimonials can be heard. Sometimes it may not be that the entire story that a gay person shares becomes legitimate, but there are parts of it that become very credible. And if, when added to the larger understanding of truth, it affects the way we deal with it. So, for all you know, Trump might be a man who has listened into credible testimonials. Now, along with all this, let me throw in the next ingredient of that person himself, Trump as a person, and his own theology. Now, Trump was born into a very wealthy household. He was exposed to a lot of people from the media world. And he himself had the first marriage, which lasted for some 10 years. And because of his moral wrongdoing, his first wife left. And then he married the one that he had relations with. And that marriage lasted 4 years. And that falls apart. He waits for a period of 7 years and then marries his current wife, that is Melania Trump. So when a person goes through these experiences, after you've lost your virginity, you are no more looking for biblical prescriptions on how to be on virgin sexuality. You relate to the scriptures with a person such as David, who himself was an adulterer and then was forgiven by God. So has Trump had the time to think about the LGBTQ phenomenon and the theology behind it? It is something that needs to be inquired. You have to allow him that space. Just because he becomes the president, it doesn't mean that he has worked his way through it and processed all of these things. And likewise, his theology, like I just mentioned. Add to all of this the last ingredient, which is governance. Now, Trump has not campaigned to be the pastor of America, nor has he campaigned to be the counselor of America. He has campaigned to be the president of the country, which means he is going to have to lead and take along with him all the people of the country, belonging to various creeds, various subgroups such as the LGBTQ, and such, various ethnic origins also, expatriates from different countries. So, various people from various origins, I mean. So, in all of this, when he's campaigning, there are a whole bunch of people out there, and within the LGBTQ spectrum, it is so vast. Unlike before, when a view of a gay person was very straitjacketed, a gay man was always effeminate. It's not like that anymore today. Today we see them in their broad breadth. So there are some of these people who prefer to identify with the conservative side of the political spectrum, And so they come to him and tell him that we want to be part of your camp. We would like to campaign for you. And these are our issues. We don't want people from our community to be criminalized. That becomes a legitimate thing for him to relate to and to want to deal with. And then, say he organizes a conference, say a campaigning conference, and then they show up with their identity, which is nothing but the multicolored flag. And then he takes a picture and that's published on the internet. Now, a conservative from the other end may see this picture and be so scandalized by it. But we need to see that he is dealing with them from the realm of governance. So, this gives you an idea of the various ingredients that go into the mix that make Trump the man he is in terms of how he responds to them. And if you get a clearer idea of this, it will then help you to apply this understanding into your other involvements in the conservative realm. I hope this helps. Thank you and thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon.